Hi everyone, it's Suey here, and today is November 1st, which for a lot of us means the beginning of NaNoWriMo. So I thought it would be fun to tell you the journeys I've had with NaNoWriMo and where I'm at right now with that. I remember watching people do NaNoWriMo for years. It's one of those things like I've talked about before where I watch people and then think about how much fun it would be to jump in, and then I never do it for years and years. It's one of those things. It seems to be a theme in my life if you haven't noticed. I don't remember when I first heard about it, a long time ago. I kept thinking there's no way I could do that. I had little kids at the time. November is a terrible month. There's too much going on. And so I was like, no way, no way, no way. But I had a story in my head that I'd written like a couple of chapters of like years before. And so one year, I finally decided to do it. I think I had a friend that said, hey, I want to do this. You should do it with me. And I'm like, okay, let's try this. Friends can help you do things like nothing else, I've decided. So that was 2013. And I finally decided to jump in and see what happens. And I realized, it's like you can't lose anything by trying, right? So 2013, I did my first Nano and I got to the 50,000 words. It wasn't quite finished, almost finished book, but not quite. I was so excited about that. And then the next year I totally jumped into the whole writing thing and started finding people to look at it and going to some classes and going to some workshops and things like that. I was completely convinced that I had not what it took to be any sort of a writer. And then when Nano came around again, 2014, I was like, that was so much fun, I'm doing it again. And I totally had another story in my head that had been festering around for a while, so I jumped into that one. And then Nano came around again in 2015, and that was the year that I had printed hard copies of that first book, was sending them around for beta copies. That year I started another story that I really, really loved, and that I felt like I was doing better writing than I had been doing ever before. I got to the 50,000. Both of those 3 years I got to the 50,000, but didn't finish the book. So obviously a 50,000 words isn't quite a finished book. So then 2016 happened and I still did Nano that year, although I was completely distracted by other things and life had completely changed. I did 2 weeks worth of Nano and got to about 20,000 words that year. So that was the first year that I didn't quote unquote win. And then 2017 and 18, I just didn't have it in me. I didn't have a story idea. I was too distracted by everything else. And so I didn't do it those years. And then I think it was in 2019, another friend was doing it again. And so I decided to try again. And I got probably about halfway done with a story that time also. And in 2020, I did not do it. And then 2021, last year, I tried again. And then I had to be grandma. I had a grandbaby born, and so there was no way I could keep going. So I only got a little teeny bit of that story done. To sum that up, I have done it 6 times. 3 times I got to 50,000 and 3 times I did not. In the last couple of years, 2020, I was concentrating more on finishing up the second book I wrote from Nano. And I have sent it out to beta readers and really love to do something with that book, but I just don't know what the next step is very well. I am so clueless. Since that one has been pretty much finished, I decided to try and finish the 3rd book that I wrote for Nano. That's what I would like to do for Nano this year, is finish that book. Because all year long I've been saying I'm going to finish that book, and I have still not done it because I get distracted by YouTubing and trying to read and all the other things that go on and crazy life. So I have not worked on it like I said I would all summer long. So today, Nano starts again. And I know that in the past, they said you weren't really a real Nano person if you were just working on an already started project. Now they let you participate by just editing and finishing the story. So that's what I want to do, but I haven't really officially pledged myself to it. I'd rather start a new book. Nano to me is so much fun, gathering with all the other people and doing it with friends and starting something new and pushing yourself to the goal that they give you. And all the things I've written, I've only done as Nano projects. I haven't actually started a book otherwise. So it's so weird to me to say that I'm going to do Nano but not start a new book. So I haven't quite figured out how to navigate that little weirdness. I still feel like I should not start something new until I finish some of these other things I've started. It makes me crazy that I haven't finished them. So the one that I'm working on right now does not have a title. It makes me crazy also that I can't figure out a title for this book. But it's a YA space opera sort of book, loosely based on the plot of Tristan and Isolde, if you know that story. There's two warring kingdoms in space, two planets, enemy planets, and the girl goes on a space cruise. She thinks it's going to be this great fun time, and it turns out the guy has been sent on a mission to find a girl for his uncle to marry, and he ends up boarding the space cruise and basically kidnapping her. Even though she ends up going willingly, she finds herself in his planet world now, trying to learn about what goes on there. There's lots of backstory that I haven't quite figured out, and I think this is what has got me stumped with figuring out the end of this story, because I can feel that there's all kinds of things that I need to figure out, but I just don't know quite how to do it. And there's lots of things I need to fix, so I get very stuck with that. I wish I could just write stuff and not have to figure out plot. Plot's my worst thing. So that's where I am with Nano. That's what I've done in the past. Maybe I'll talk about some of the other stories in another video, but I would like to work on this space opera story this month and finish it. Like, I only have maybe 10,000 words or so that I need to add to it to make it feel finished, and then go back and try to smooth out the transitions here and there between all the different parts of this book. So I just thought I would check in and see if anybody else is doing Nano and what your projects are, what you're planning on writing, if you are experienced with doing Nano before. If this is your first time, let's just talk about what you think about this whole Nano thing and what you're going to do. If you are working on it, good luck, everyone. Let's check in about halfway through the month and see how we're all doing. Hopefully I will not just ignore this book this entire month. Be sure to like and subscribe to this channel if you're finding it interesting, and I hope to see you around. Instead of saying happy reading this time, let's say happy writing, everyone. Bye.